And Amelia kind of get up in the camera and wave at Carson. He misses you guys.
Us?
Yeah, just kind of stand up so that you can see the camera,
All of us?
so that you can see your head, and just give Carson a little wave and say hi.
Hi.
Okay. And then Hannah and Jaron, make sure you're in the camera. Okay, Jaron, you're in the camera. Leela and Elijah, if you just stay where you are and get up on your knees. There you go.
Hi, Carson.
And then Gabriella and Lois. Lois, scoot over by Gabriella. If you get up on your knees, there you go. Yep, there's Lois. And then Christian and Waylon, you want to come over? Christian, you'll have to scoot over here by Gabriella. You'll have to, there you are. And then Waylon, give a little, there you go. Okay. So, we just wanted to say hi. And Waylon is our new friend, like I told you about on Monday. And so we'll probably start off Bible time every way that way because he misses you guys. And so we were watching the videos yesterday and he was like, but I can't see them. So gave him a chance to actually see you guys this morning. Yes, Lois?
Last night we read a pig book together with Mommy and me.
Okay. That's has nothing to do with what we're doing right now, but okay. Crisscross applesauce. Hands in your lap. Okay, so yesterday we continued our story of Joseph, and what happened to Joseph? He was sold as a slave, and then what happened while he was at? Well, first off, do you remember the guy's name that he worked for? What was the name of the guy that he worked for? Leela?
The baker?
No, he had a name. I had you repeat it. It was kind of weird, Hannah. I had the word pot in it.
Potiphar?
Potiphar, right.
Potiphar.
His name was Potiphar, and what was Potiphar's job? Elijah?
I forget.
Oh, please don't raise your hand if you don't have an answer
Okay.
ready, because I'm going to call on you if you raise your hand. Amelia?
To cook.
No. Jared?
To tell the servants when to go to fight.
Kind of, sort of, not really. Waylon?
To keep the king safe.
Right. He was the captain of the bodyguards, and the bodyguards were the ones who were supposed to keep the Pharaoh safe, right?
Yeah.
And so he put Joseph in charge of his whole house, and then what did Mrs. Potiphar do? Lois?
Kill Joseph?
No. Christian?
Put him in jail?
Well, first, so because of what she did, he got put in jail. But what did she do? What did she do against Joseph first, Elijah?
Wanted him to lie.
Right. Well, she lied about him, right?
Yeah.
She told Potiphar that he did something that he did not do, and so Potiphar threw him in jail. And did Joseph grumble and complain and throw a temper tantrum while he was in jail? No. In fact, he had such a good attitude that he became in charge of different parts of the jail. And while he was there, who did he find that was having a really bad day in the jail? Who did he find in the jail and they were having a really bad day? Leela?
The baker.
A baker and the what? Lois?
Butler.
Yeah, butler or cupbearer. And why were these two guys having such a bad day? What happened to them that had them all sad and troubled? Waylon?
One was going down the river.
Oh, well, that was the VeggieTales version. What's the real story from yesterday during Bible time? Leela?
I forgot.
Okay, Hannah?
They had bad dreams.
They had bad dreams, right? And they were like, what do these dreams mean? I'm so confused. And so Joseph was able to tell them in 3 days. He told the baker in 3 days, or the cupbearer, in 3 days, you're going to get your job back. And then he told the baker in 3 days what was going to happen to the baker.
Oh, no.
Leela?
He was getting his punishment.
He was getting his punishment, right, Christian? So the one that was getting his job back, the cupbearer, what did Joseph ask him to do when he went back and got his job back? What did Joseph ask him to do, Jaren?
To tell him that Pharaoh to tell him that I can tell your dreams.
Okay, well, Pharaoh hadn't had his dream yet. He just asked the cupbearer to remember him, right? Mm-hmm. He just told the cupbearer, please tell Pharaoh about me. Help me get out of jail. And did the cupbearer help him remember? No. Nope. Not until the Pharaoh had a dream of his own. So, one night, the Pharaoh was sleeping, and he had the strangest dream. And in this dream, there were 7 fat cows, so healthy, normal-looking cows, and 7 really skinny cows. Like, so skinny you could see their ribs. They were not healthy cows, okay? And the 7 skinny cows got up and ate the 7 fat cows. Okay, first off, do cows eat each other? No. What do cows eat? Grass. So first off, that's weird. And then the fact that we had 7 skinny cows and 7 fat cows, I don't know. That Pharaoh must have eaten something really wonky before he went to bed.
Yeah.
Waylon?
I saw that on VeggieTales and they had a fork and some salt.
Okay, crisscross applesauce. So he wakes up. What in the world? What was that all about? And so he's like, okay, it was just one weird dream. I'm going to go back to sleep and it's all going to be okay. So he goes back to sleep and he has another dream.
What? I know that dream.
And in this dream, he had 7 pieces of wheat that were healthy looking. They were just really good pieces of wheat. Or corn, yeah. 7 ears of corn, sorry. But then then there were 7 ears of corn that were like, so when you think like corn on the cob, and it's nice and yellow, and it's juicy, and the kernels just pop in your mouth. Okay, so have that picture in your mind when you're thinking the 7 healthy ears of corn, okay? And then there were 7 not so healthy ears of corn. So have you ever seen, like, the corn right now, it's all brown and kind of small and skinny, and if you peeled the husk off, it would, if you peeled the husk off, the kernels would be all, like, hard and weird. And so that's because it's feed corn, not, it's corn to feed animals. It's not corn to feed us. But it doesn't look healthy, does it? When you drive by the cornfields, it's not nice and green and ready to be picked. It's brown and skinny, okay? So you've got 7 nice green and yellow ears of corn, and then you've got 7 brown, nasty, skinny, brown pieces of corn, okay? And hold on to your hats. The 7 pieces of yucky corn ate the 7 healthy ears of corn.
What?
Wait a minute. Corn doesn't even eat anything. Corn does not have a mouth. How did the sick corn eat the healthy corn? So Pharaoh wakes up and he's like, this is weird. I've got to call somebody. So he calls in all of his wise men. These wise men are men that have studied. They've read all kinds of books. They've gone to university. They're so smart, or they're supposed to be. And he calls them all in and tell me my dream or you're going to die.
What? That's a bad punishment.
He's Pharaoh, so he's allowed to do that. It's not a good punishment because how are they supposed to know what the dream means?
I don't know.
But Pharaoh said, tell me my dream, tell me what it meant, or you're all going to die. And so the wise men, they start thinking and like, okay, maybe it means this, and taking down notes and talking to Pharaoh. Did this really happen? And tell me again what happened to the seven fat cows. And they kept trying to figure it out, and they couldn't. And so the cupbearer, he must have been hanging out in there, or maybe the Pharaoh asked for some hot milk to help him feel sleepy again. I don't know. But the cupbearer was like, I had a weird dream. And Joseph was able to tell me my dream meant. So he said, Pharaoh, there's a man down in jail whose name is Joseph, and he might be able to tell you what your dream means. So the Pharaoh said, okay, go get Joseph out of jail. So even though the cupbearer forgot about Joseph, eventually he remembered him because he was needed. So at least he got out of jail. The cupbearer could have been like, oh well, I wonder who they can figure out his dream. You know, he could have forgotten about Joseph, but he remembered him. So they got Joseph out of jail, and Joseph said, I'm not the one who's going to tell you what your dream means.
What?
Who gave Joseph the ability to tell people what their dream meant?
Not.
Jaren?
God.
God did. It didn't come from Joseph. It didn't come from his head and what he thought. God put it in his head what it meant. Okay? So Joseph gave all the glory to God. He said, it's not me, it's God. Which is also a really scary thing because Egyptians didn't worship the God in heaven. They had a bunch of idols and other gods that they worshipped. They didn't worship the God in heaven. So that was really scary for Joseph to do too. But he said, I serve the God in heaven, and he's the one who's going to give me the ability to tell you what your dream means. And then he went on and told him what his dream meant. He said, the 7 healthy cows and the 7 healthy ears of corn stand for 7 years.
What?
Okay? So just like the 3 baskets and what was the other one? The baker and the cupbearer, they had something of 3 in their dreams, and it stood for 3 days. Well, the 7 healthy cows and the 7 healthy corn stood for 7 years. Okay? And for 7 years, the Egyptians would have good harvest. Okay? So they'd be able to harvest really good corn, harvest really good wheat. They'd have plenty of food. But after those 7 years, the sick corn and the sick cows stood for another 7 years. And after the 7 years of plenty and good harvest, they'd have 7 years of famine. Do you know what famine means?
No way. No.
Jaren, what does famine mean?
That means bad corn.
Well, kind of. It means nothing grows. So they're not going to be able to.
I know what it is.
They're not going to be able to grow any food. So 7 years of getting plenty of food, and then 7 years of growing no food. And if whatever does grow, it's not going to be worth eating. And the king said, oh no, what am I going to do? And Joseph said, I have a plan. We need to build up, we need to save up the food that we grow in the 7 years of harvest so that we have plenty of food for the 7 years of famine. And the Pharaoh was like, oh, that's a good idea. You're going to be in charge of that. In fact, you're going to be second in command. And your job is going to be to build all of the storehouses to hold all the food for the 7 years of famine. And so Joseph went from being a slave in Potiphar's house to being the second most powerful man in Egypt. The other person that was only as powerful, or that was more powerful than Jacob, was Pharaoh.
What?
Yeah. Because he had a good attitude. A lot of bad stuff happened to Joseph, didn't it?
Yes.
His brothers sold him. First they wanted to kill him, but then they threw him in a pit, and then they sold him, and then he became a slave.
Who's a slave?
Someone who works for nothing. And a lot of the times slaves weren't treated nicely. I think Potiphar probably treated his nicely. We don't know for sure. But they work for nothing, and they're normally not treated kindly. So he was a slave in Potiphar's house, and then Mrs. Potiphar told a lie about Joseph, and he got thrown into jail. And then while he was in jail, he got forgotten about in jail by someone he helped. So that's like 6, 7 bad things that happened to Joseph.
Yeah.
And never once does the Bible say that he grumbled. Never once does the Bible say that he complained. Never once does the Bible say that he threw a temper tantrum. Never once does it say that he had a bad attitude about what happened. He just continued doing what he knew was the right thing to do. And because he did that, God rewarded him. Now, did it take a long time for that to happen, Amelia?
Yeah.
It did. And we don't know how long. We don't know how long it took for all of this to happen. But it's not like bad stuff happens next day, second in command.
Well, what?
Okay. There was time between when he was sold as a slave by his brothers and when he became second in command. So it took a while for him to get his reward. But because he had a good attitude and because he listened and obeyed and because he did what was right with a happy heart, he was going to be responsible for saving everybody in Egypt plus others, because the famine was not just in Egypt, it was all over. So people came from all over to Egypt to get food. So Joseph became responsible for saving hundreds of thousands of people, all because he kept a good attitude when all the bad stuff was happening. So that's a very important lesson, and even Miss Rachel needs to learn that lesson sometimes. When we have bad things happen to us, it's really easy to get down and sad and to just want to give up and maybe even throw a little temper tantrum and scream and yell and say, why is this happening? And then just stop and not do anything else. Well, all this bad stuff is happening, so I'm just going to give up. But that's not what we should do. And it's okay to be sad. There's nothing wrong with being sad. But that shouldn't make us just stop living life and doing what we know is right. When bad stuff happens, we need to keep going and have a happy attitude, even if it's hard. Okay? Does that have to do with Bible time?
Yeah.
What?
Sometimes I have a good attitude, and like when my mom says, it's time to clean up your room, and I do it with a happy attitude, and I just clean up happily in my room.
Well, yeah, we should definitely obey with a happy attitude, but when, if something happens to your mommy or your daddy while you're still a little kid, or if something happens to a grandma or a grandpa that you're really close to while you're a little kid, make your heart sad, and you might think, why is God letting this happening? Why is this bad thing happening? Why did God let this happen? And you might be tempted to just give up. Or you might see that mommy and daddy are just wanting to give up. You can say, Mommy, Daddy, don't give up. Good things will come if we just keep going. Okay? So, and with Joseph, it may not happen the very next day. It may take a really long time for us to see the good thing. But if we do what's right and we keep trusting in God, even in the bad things, the good thing will come. Okay? So don't give up, even if it's hard.